As Israel looks like it is going to elections once again in the near future, possibly, Benny Gantz, defense minister, leader of the Blue and White Party, alternate prime minister, and the person who is supposed to be prime minister in just a number of months, dropped this bombshell statement, which looks like he is trying to regain his bona fides on the left before a possible election. As Gantz is no longer the darling of the left, their knight in shining armor they were counting on to get rid of Netanyahu and the right, and to replace Netanyahu, this public turn to the left won't help him anyway. Last Thursday, in an interview with the Saudi Arabian Asharaq al-Awsat newspaper, Gantz said that while Jerusalem should remain a united city, there was room for it to be a shared capital by both Israel and a future Palestinian state. In Gantz's own words, and I quote from the interview, "Jerusalem must stay united, but it will have a place for a Palestinian capital. It's a vast city filled with sites that are holy to all of us. We want the Palestinians to have a suitable geographical extension that enables them to lead a comfortable life without obstacles." End quote. Now, understand, the Middle East peace process has gone through a fundamental change under the Trump administration, together with Prime Minister Netanyahu. After 3+ years of waiting for the Palestinian Authority to come to the table to negotiate, the Trump administration, together with Netanyahu, made a pivot. They moved on to do the impossible and made normalization agreements with other Arab Muslim countries instead. This was a huge change to the peace industry of diplomats and think tanks that have always told us that peace with Arab Muslim countries is impossible without first establishing a state of Palestine. As John Kerry said himself so succinctly,
"There will be no separate peace between Israel and the Arab world." I want to make that very clear to all of you. I've heard several prominent politicians in Israel sometimes saying, well, the Arab world's in a different place now. We just have to reach out to them and we can work some things with the Arab world and we'll deal with the Palestinians. No, 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 and no. I can tell you that, reaffirmed even in the last week as I have talked to leaders of the Arab community. There will be no advance and separate peace with the Arab world without the Palestinian process and Palestinian peace. Everybody needs to understand that. That is a hard reality.
This pivot also means that the two-state solution paradigm, which includes a possible capital for the Palestinian Arabs in Jerusalem, is dead. Why do I say dead? Because the normalization agreements with the growing number of Arab Muslim countries exposes the big lie that the Palestinian Authority is truly interested in peace with Israel. The keys to these normalization agreements under the Abraham Accords with the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain is that they were predicated on people-to-people peace and normalizing relationships between our countries to grow the partnership between our peoples. That has totally been ignored in the 3 decades of a peace process with the Palestinian Authority. While the Emiratis educate their children about making peace with the Jews of Israel, the Palestinian Authority, with international aid and UNRWA, educates their children to murder Jews and destroy the Jewish state of Israel in their actual educational textbooks in schools. Any and all Israeli leaders who continue to deny this reality that has been exposed more now than ever with the introduction of these historic Abraham Accords, and instead they continue to peddle the old two-state paradigm, including setting up a capital for the Palestinian Arabs in Jerusalem, well, they are disconnected with reality and hence not fit to lead Israel. I do have to give Gantz credit. When asked about the two-state solution in this interview, Gantz did adjust a little slightly to this new reality. Quote, as he says, "A state or an empire, they can call it as they like. I want Palestinians to be part of the peace process. The push for normalization within the Arab world is a great and real opportunity." We have to talk in a new, modern language about ways to solve and not cling to the traditional discourse. We, on our part, want to separate from them, and we want guarantees for our security. If we agree on security matters, the political situation will come easily, and we will have to find not only solutions to problems, but also have deep cooperation in economics, science and technology, education, and everything. This is a historic opportunity, end quote. But again, within Gantz's own statement, he is exposing how he is still disconnected from reality. No, Benny Gantz, agreeing on security matters with an entity that educates its children to murder Jews and destroy the Jewish state of Israel will not bring about an easy political solution and cooperation in all those ways. Rather, it will create a more dangerous situation, allowing a genocidal entity called the Palestinian Authority to continue its crusade to educate future generations to be ready to kill Jews and destroy Israel at the right time. So, in response to his statement, Bezalel Smotrich of the right-wing Yamina party attacked Benny Gantz's comment on Jerusalem, saying, and I quote, "Jerusalem will continue to be the capital of the state of Israel, and it alone, and there will be no room for the capital of any other state, which in any case will not be established, even long after Benny Gantz and his party disappear from the political landscape of the state of Israel." Even Fatin Mullah, a Druze member, not Jewish, of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party said, and I quote, "Jerusalem is the capital of the state of Israel, period." And he continued, "Gantz's drop in the polls seems to cause him to utter nonsense and vanity in an attempt to extricate his condition from the failure he has reached. And on the way, he drags the state of Israel into an abyss with garbled and dangerous statements," end quote. And there might be much truth to that statement. Within the next few days, we will know if we are going to new elections once again, and therefore with the potential of another election on the horizon, Gantz expressed optimism that he would do better at the ballot box than he is doing in public opinion polls. Pardon me if I laugh. Now, you definitely know that he is not connected to reality. Gantz's political future has been decimated. You can say that Netanyahu has eaten him for lunch and spit him out. He was once the leader of the Blue and White Party with 35 seats, running neck and neck with Netanyahu's Likud party. Now his party is only 17 seats, and it might even shrink more over the next few days with a potentially new political agreement that Netanyahu is trying to make with him, which will cause a further split in his own Blue and White Party. So while Gantz was the darling of the left to replace Netanyahu during the last few elections, now the left sees that he is no leader and he has no chance of ever replacing Netanyahu. In reality, the left is already fighting over who their new knight in shining armor potential leader would be to help them once again try to get rid of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the right. And all I have to say is stay tuned.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.